But when you hear the things that have been said about him and you consider his resume, I sincerely hope that, he has a nice pension plan and whatever, because I think this is his last job in the National Football League. He's been in there for 22 years. He was associated with Bountygate, which forced him to ultimately get suspended. Obviously, he didn't have the greatest relationship in Cleveland with Freddie Kitchens and Todd Haley before they were, I'm sorry, not Todd Haley, Todd Haley and Freddie Kitchens, but ultimately, he took over on an interim basis for Hugh Jackson once Hugh Jackson was let go. And then obviously there were some relationship issues there. He arrives in the New York Jets. He's running the defense. And you got players, numerous players that were clearly frustrated, including specifically Marcus May out of Florida, 4 years in the National Football League, literally goes into the post-game conference and say, we have to execute, but you got to help us. You got to put us in the right position and calling a cover zero blitz and giving no help on the outside to Lamar Jackson when he's covering Henry Ruggs, and you get no safety help over the top whatsoever. It's just so flagrantly bad, so unnecessary, so inept. That to get fired in the immediate aftermath of that, being 62 years of age, being in the league for 22 years, I think this is probably his last job in the NFL, certainly as a coordinator, because I think it's the combination of the chances he takes, how it's not even questions about his intellect. It's his ego that gets in the way, which gives the impression that he's difficult to deal with. I think all of those things being taken into consideration, I'd be hard pressed to imagine that somebody else is going to hire him as their defensive coordinator when you've got the second worst defense in the National Football League right now, and you've just been fired with 4 games left in the season because this is the lasting memory, the indelible mark that you've punctuated your career with. I don't see him getting another job after this.
First, I need to say about Gregg Williams, because Bountygate's always the first thing people talk about. I always thought that was nonsense. If you play a full contact sport, and Stephen A., you follow the fight game, part of the strategy is break them down in the body, through attrition, and then you go upstairs. I mean, like in football, as long as you're not being told to do anything illegal, if you're like, hey, I'll give you a little bonus, like a fun thing you do with a team or a motivational thing. If you knock that guy out within the rules, if you injure him, that's part of football, is creating injury, in fact. That can be part of your strategy when you wear another team down, a bruising running back, a defense, whatever it is. So I always thought the NFL, that's really, which way is the wind blowing? Let's protect our bottom line and show we mean business with this guy, when he didn't actually, as far as I could tell, break the rules. Nevertheless, that's what happened. So I'm going to put Bountygate aside. I thought he did a good job with the Cleveland Browns as an interim coach. So did you. In fact, Stephen A., if I'm not mistaken, you suggested maybe they should hire Gregg Williams. I know. Yeah. Maybe I did. I mean, people were buzzing
I did say that. Yes, I did.
This is what I'll say. If you make a play call and afterwards defenders on your own team are calling you out, your head coach is not backing you up when you're basically you're in charge of the defense. You have autonomy. Your own player calls you out on the defense. Your head coach doesn't back you up. The opposing quarterback thanks you for the play call. Every media member and every fan knows it was an idiotic play call. That's bad enough. What's worse is when you talk about ego, Stephen A., it was as though he was saying, this is the way I do things, come hell or high water. And when the Jets, a winless team, they're going to pick first regardless, right? A winless team have played hard and they're in a position to win. And you put your own, well, this is the way I do things, ahead of putting them in the best position to win. That's the straw that breaks the camel's back. Stephen A., when you think about play calls, it's funny. We argued earlier in the show, what was the dumbest play of the year? You argued Falcons. I argued Gregg Williams. But what was the upshot in both cases? Dan Quinn essentially was fired, maybe not exactly directly as a result of that, but maybe. And now Gregg Williams is fired. This was so bad, you have to get rid of the guy.
Hey, listen, like I said, I don't ignore Bountygate, because even though we could absolve the players, the bottom line is the NFL rather found him guilty. They weren't trying to pay players for performance. They were trying to pay players to actually injure other players, getting carted off the field and things of that nature. But again, I'm not going to revisit that. That's just the NFL's position. We understand that. But in the end, 22 years in the NFL, and this is how it ends. I'm hard pressed to see him getting another job at least as a coordinator. I'm hard pressed for that.
Yeah. We'll leave it on the note. We'll have much more with this. Ryan Clark is going to join us. We'll certainly get his reaction to this news as well. And a few other things I want to get into here, guys. The G-men are streaking. And before you get your hopes up, Gang Green, in typical Jets fashion, their defensive fail answered the Raiders' Hail Mary prayers. Max, did the Jets' all-out pass rush in a Hail Mary situation make this the dumbest play of the season?
The answer is yes, in a season of inexplicably stupid plays. And Stephen A., I will leave the Falcons to you because that was something. But let me tell you why I think it was this. Because when you're a coach, you have the advantage of knowing the game's situation, of preparation and planning in a different way than the players, where the play is unfolding in front of them. And the one thing you have to do, and Gregg Williams has autonomy with the defense, right? The one thing you have to do in that situation, the only thing you have to do is not give up a touchdown. That's it. Let him complete a pass. It doesn't matter. Game's over. Just don't give up a touchdown. The only thing you have to do. So you bring 7. You leave guys in man coverage and behind the defense. And by the way, Mike Greenberg pointed this out this morning, Stephen A. on Get Up. It was the second consecutive play that they let someone get behind the defense. Like, it's inexplicable. And by the way, you do start to think, like, Gregg Williams is a competitive guy, but it's the kind of play when fans get suspicious about motives for teams. Like, do they want the first pick? Does someone have money on the game? Like, that kind of stuff that fans talk about, which I don't believe is the case here. But it's that inexplicable. Like, you need some reason. Gregg Williams, I don't care, as it's been pointed out all day on ESPN and last night, that he has done this before. The one thing you don't do and the only thing you don't do is give up a touchdown. And so that's the play you call? It doesn't make sense. Stephen A., it is actually the dumbest play of the year.
Max Kellerman, let me parse words here. It may have been the dumbest call, but it wasn't the dumbest play. The dumbest play was by the Atlanta Falcons on September 20th at Jerry World. That was the dumbest play. This onside kick by Zerline, it's not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, 6 different Atlanta Falcons. 6 different Atlanta Falcons are standing around the ball for an onside kick and literally waiting for that, treating it like it was I don't even know what to say. It's treating it like it was a punt. Okay, and they were like waiting for the ball to hit. And I understand they had to get to the 45-yard line. I get all of that. But you got 6 different Atlanta Falcons that could have pounced on the ball, and they treated it like it was a punt instead of an onside kick and blew the game and lost 40-39. I don't know anything dumber than that. As far as I'm concerned, it's one of the dumbest plays in history, okay? Now, in the case of Gregg Williams, you got your defense in the wrong situation. All-out blitz, 0 blitz. What the hell are you doing? Gregg Williams is not something that he hasn't done before. He's done it many times. That's just his way, his ego, and that got in the way, and his team suffered because of it because he clearly didn't put them in the best position to win. Only having 3 dudes in the secondary for crying out loud. And rushing 8. Just dumb. We get all of that. We understand that on the part of Gregg Williams. But when that still doesn't eclipse 6 different dudes, and your only assignment is to pounce on the football. That's it. You ain't got to cover nobody. All right? You don't have to sit up there and worry about coverage. You don't have to. All you have to do is pounce on the ball. And 6 different Atlanta
Falcons. You know what the
Falcons
difference is?
Was right there, and none of them did it. All 6 of them didn't know what the hell to do. Now, I don't know if that can eclipse the stupidity of Gregg Williams.
Well, I appreciate the distinction between the dumbest play and the dumbest call or something.
The dumbest call.
What's amazing about the play with the Falcons is it was contagious. Like, I understand one dude just having a brain freeze, but 5 dudes? It doesn't make sense. Here's the difference, Stephen A. Let's convict them in a court of popular opinion, right? Of public opinion. One, they both killed the game, but one was manslaughter. That was not premeditated what the Falcons did. That was spur of the moment. They messed up. Gregg Williams, that was murder. He murdered that game for the Jets.
Terrible call.
That was premeditated. Stephen A., it's 3rd and 10. It's 3rd and 10 with the game on the line, and you just don't let the defense, let anyone get behind the defense. And they go 0. They have no safety, no nothing. They're in man coverage with the fastest dude on the field. I don't.
Max, you missed something.
Logic?
You missed something.
What's the logic?
You missed something. Not only were they in man coverage against the fastest dude on the field. The name of the cornerback was Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I mean, damn. You know that's bad. I mean, when we've got a Lamar Jackson that is, I'm talking about an elite athlete and a speedster at the quarterback position for the Baltimore Ravens, and this quarterback happens to have the same name. I mean, that's just pretty bad, and I get it. But again, it's entirely
better
different.
off putting Lamar Jackson on.
It's entirely different than 6 dudes
we gotta roll.
not knowing to pounce on a football.
Yeah.
That's just dumb.